Hey Eagles fans, this is Mike Kaye from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to the No Huddle Show podcast, where we discuss anything and everything Philadelphia Eagles. You can read our content on NJ.com/Eagles, bookmark that, and you can subscribe to our exclusive Eagles Insider text service, where we'll break news, give you insider observations, and provide in-depth analysis. Through Eagles Extra, you can send questions and comments directly to us, and we'll respond to your phone. With me today, as always, is my fellow Eagles beat reporter, Chris Franklin. Today we're going to discuss the Eagles' blowout loss to the Patriots, DeVonta Smith's debut, and the standouts and stragglers from the second preseason matchup. Chris, I know we haven't gotten a lot of sleep. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. Surprisingly, I was able to bounce back. I'm active for today's podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm not writing about how the Eagles should trade for Nick Foles, so I feel pretty good about where I'm at right now. You know me, it wouldn't be a podcast if I wasn't subtly taking a jab at one of our colleagues. In a funny way, I'm not mean, I'm just saying.
What could you mean?
Yeah. Oh, come on, that's ridiculous. I don't even think he really wants to come here based on reports. So anyway, let's move on. So let's get into Jalen Hurts right off the bat. We saw Jalen Hurts working out on the field prior to the game. He looked fine. Then all of a sudden, after kickoff, we see that Joe Flacco is lining up with the first team offense. Everybody's phones blow up. The Eagles say that Jalen Hurts is dealing with a non-COVID illness. It turns out he had a stomach bug, went to the hospital. They checked him for several different symptoms. He's doing okay, but obviously he didn't play in this preseason game. I know a lot of fans were frustrated because they paid to attend this game. It was just like a freak accident. And frankly, Hurts was only going to play 1 to 2 series anyway. So Flacco gets pushed in there. What did you take away from Flacco's performance?
It's very concerning to me the way that Flacco played, because given the whole entire circumstance with him having to come in on short notice, especially say if this happened to Hurts in the regular season, him coming in to play on short notice didn't impress me. I know he was playing, it was a second and third teams going against the Patriots once, but you expected him to make some better throws and some better reads. And frankly, it is a little disappointing. I mean, there's a couple of times where he had Smith who was breaking open, and it looks like he double clutched on some of those throws and hesitated. And I think that cost him Smith one catch. And then also he could have had a first down on another one. So I thought that he did what he's done during training camp. He's tried to hit the running backs out the backfield, and he tried to hit some of those crossing routes or stick routes in the middle of the field, and he stuck with his MO. But I would have liked to see him try to push the ball a little bit down, because to me, it just seems like whenever he's in the game now, just bring the safeties up and play closer to the line of scrimmage, and then you just solved them. It was rough to see, man. What did you think of his performance?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think that segues well into DeVonta Smith. Look, DeVonta Smith came as advertised as a route runner. I thought his performance was underwhelming. You expect him to be a good route runner. Frankly, the first 3 passes that hit his hands fell to the ground. I'm not putting the full blame on him. As you said, he was a little late to Smith over the middle. They clearly had a miscommunication on the downfield shot. But Flacco, Sirianni, and Smith all put the blame on Smith for not turning his head around after the game. It happens. You're a rookie. You're just getting used to the timing and everything. And then, he had that drop that was negated due to a penalty. And then you saw him kind of, once he got his footing, in the second quarter, he made a pair of catches that were impressive off of some really nice route running. I thought he was fine, but it was an underwhelming debut. I mean, obviously, you wanted to see more out of the first-round pick. 2 catches for 19 yards on 4 targets with 2 to 3 debatable drops is not necessarily the intrigue that you want. But then again, he's been out of practice for roughly a week and a half, 2 weeks with a knee injury. The good news is he didn't look like he was slowed down by the knee injury. His routes were crisp. What did you take away from his performance?
I thought there's some good things that he did. I mean, especially for as much time as he missed, and for him trying to be reacclimated to game speed. As I know he had to practice, he participated in a joint practice, but for him to actually be reacclimated to true game speed, I thought he did all right. I mean, he wasn't the only person that saw he did well. I mean, Ocho Cinco saw him get off the line and get off those releases. So I'm not too concerned about the way he performed on Thursday. And I think he's going to go further from here on out and improve. It's just the one thing I just want to see him do is I want to see how he bounces back and shakes off like having a bad performance and missing those catches he normally makes. That's the main thing I just want to see, especially going into next week against the Jets.
So here's what I want to say. I don't want to sound like I'm being too critical of DeVonta Smith, but I think if you're going to, say a guy had a bad game because he allowed one sack, you can definitely clearly say that a rookie had an up and down game because he had 2 drops or a drop and a poor play, right? I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, it is. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, if you're going to be critical, if you're going to say a guy had a great game because he had 1 sack, because he produced 1 sack, I mean, you have to also kind of, for everybody who was hating on Zach McPherson during that one drive where Cam Newton basically targeted him like relentlessly, you've also got to acknowledge the fact that DeVonta Smith dropped a couple of passes. If you're going to criticize Jalen Reagor for that interception, which I thought was a really poor route, I also thought it was a poor decision by Flacco, you've got to criticize what's happening with catchable balls hitting hands. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not saying DeVonta Smith is anything to worry about. He's definitely not. He did stuff that no other wide receiver has been able to consistently do over the past 3 years. For the Eagles, he's gotten open. His routes are ridiculously technically sound. He's fantastic. But even Nick Sirianni said after the game, he had a couple of drops. He, had some miscues, and then he found his footing. I mean, that happens. He's a rookie. That's not me being overly critical. That's me just acknowledging what's happening here. And I noticed reading some other people's reports, they just kind of blanketed on DeVonta Smith having some boo-boos. It was basically all on Joe Flacco's accuracy or inaccuracy, and I just don't think that that's fair. Although I do think Joe Flacco obviously struggled. Look, this was a 35-0 blowout, so let's kind of get into the defense too. I thought, so the Eagles sat Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, Fletcher Cox, Siobhan Hargrave, Brandon Graham, and Darius Slay. Pretty much the only regular starters, especially in a nickel package, were Anthony Harris, the safety, and then Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton. So the defense was going to struggle because they were going up against the Patriots offense for the better part of a quarter and a half. So their first team offense. So I'm not like that concerned. I thought the linebackers played very well. I think the linebackers have surpassed my expectations exponentially over the summer. What's your takeaway from the defense?
Well, I think you took my point right there perfectly. I thought it was very good to see the way they were doing. I mean, Alex Singleton was flowing to the ball. Same with TJ Edwards, and then even Sean Bradley threw it a little bit in Eric Wilson. I liked what I saw from that linebacking core, and remember how there used to not be an emphasis on that position, and now you start to see when you let these guys flow and do their thing and see what they could do. It pays off. It pays dividends. I thought they all right. I thought the secondary struggled at times, like you mentioned beforehand with Zach McPherson, Cam Newton. Cam Newton made he wanted to go ahead and go at McPherson a lot, and it showed on that end. And I thought Graylin Arnold played okay. Kayvon Wallace, he did better. Thought he did better in run support than he did in his pass coverage. So
agreed.
That was a little questionable. And I think Teron Jackson, he thought he had some issues when he did all right. Oh, he was up and down just like a lot of these rookies were. I liked what I saw when it came to his pass rush at times, like some of the moves he's been using. You can see he's trying to vary it up, but when it came to setting the edge, when it came to his run defense, there were still some questions there. So I thought that was pretty telling on that. And Patrick Johnson had another strong game too. I liked what I saw out of him too.
I agree. So, look, there isn't a lot to glean from this preseason game, but there's a couple of guys that I really wanted to go out of my way to shout out. TJ Edwards. Boy, did this dude have a game. I rewatched the game like an idiot at like 2:30 in the morning. This guy was everywhere. And look, Alex Singleton was everywhere. He was making tackles. He also missed some tackles, but he also played more than I think he thought he was going to get. But TJ Edwards nearly had an interception. He had a play where he broke up a pass to Stevenson, the running back, that was initially ruled a forced fumble, then overturned and ruled an incompletion. He made two really nice run stops within the 10-yard line in the red zone in the second quarter. I just think he's having a really good camp. He's been all around the ball. He's not really known for his work in the pass game, but he's had he's had at least a handful of pass breakups this summer and at least 3 interceptions. So
you're ready to get back into yoga. So you ordered the essentials, a non-slip mat, yoga blocks to keep balance, and an exercise ball. And you used your Bank of America customized cash rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential yoga gear. Noise canceling headphones. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation.
Including one against the Patriots during practices. I'm very impressed by him. I brought up on the previous podcast that I think Alex Singleton makes a lot of sense as an auto in base packages, and then you use Edwards in 2-down situations at middle linebacker, and then you move Wilson to Will, but Wilson will still have the green dot. I just think there's a lot to like about those 3 linebackers as a trio. I really don't see it with Jannard Avery. I think Patrick Johnson has looked good, but I don't know if I would start him right away as 7th round rookie. What did you take away from TJ Edwards' game? Is there a guy that you wanted to shout out before I get to my next guy?
Well, I think Edwards did a good job, and one thing I saw that I always had questions about when it came was his pass coverage, and he was able to get good depth and good drops into his zones and at least play serviceable. I mean, the Eagles weren't running any exotic looks. They wanted to save it for the regular season, but from what he did, I thought that was all right. Now, when it comes to guys I want to shout out, I like what I saw out of Kenny Gainwell. I really thought that he ran the ball well. He was decisive when he didn't dance around before running into the holes, and you need that, especially with the type of run scheme that this team runs, especially with the zone, because you want to see a guy just goes, okay, he sees the 1 foot plant and he goes, and he especially did that. And he also caught all of his targets as well, too. I mean, this team will be using the running backs. That's no secret about it. This team will be using the running backs a lot in both the run and pass game. So the fact that he's becoming a reliable option out the backfield, catching the ball, and he's running the ball well, he's picking up this offense. He's not thinking things as much through. That was a really good sign out of the rookie.
Yeah, I agree. Another rookie draft pick that I want to shout out is I got nothing. Holy rusted metal, Batman.
Oh wow, Batman was it the 3rd Batman, wasn't it? Batman Forever.
Yes, yeah. It's when he steps like they're going to like the Riddler's lair, and what's his name? Chris O'Donnell steps into like a thing, and he's like, "Holy rusted metal, Batman!" Like obviously as a throwback to the '60s.
It's
show.
holy and it's rusted.
Yeah, like metal with rusty holes in it. Yeah. So I thought he was tremendous. The first drive of the second quarter. He forced holding penalties on 2 separate right tackles. It was really, really impressive. The dude has great burst off the line. He can win inside. He can win outside. I think this dude's going to be legitimately a force this year, and using him in a rotation, not showing kind of too many looks at defensive end. Well, I mean, he played all defensive end throughout this game, but you get the feeling that the Eagles don't want to show their hand and what they're going to do with him inside. I think he's going to be dangerous on stunts and games. I think the future's really bright for him. You can totally see why Jonathan Gannon was stoked about this pick. I think when we look back on this draft, I mean, yes, as much as DeVonta Smith and Landon Dickerson will be the ones that make it, I think Milton Williams could be a guy. I'm not comparing him to Benny Logan, but a lot of people overlooked Benny Logan. He was a really good starter for 4 years. I think Milton Williams can surpass that production, but be in that kind of same vein where he was a bit of an unusual pick with an unusual body type and kind of took advantage of that, both from Louisiana, by the way. Who's another guy you want to shout out?
No, I want to stay away from one deep cut and go to one who was originally a deep cut, but now was pressed into more service last night, and that was Jack Stoll. And after Jason Kroom suffered that knee injury, which according to Eden Rappaport now looks like it looks like it's going to be a season ender because he was carted off the field with that on a non-contact injury. I thought he did all right. I thought there are some catches he should have made, to be honest, but to be targeted 4 times to come away with 4 of them, I thought that's what you needed him to do. You just needed him to keep the ball moving in positive yardage, and I was really paying attention to his blocking because given he may be now, given this situation and Rodgers' contract potentially being guaranteed, if he's on his roster, he may be thrown in there now on that first game. You never know if the Eagles want to use him for that first game before re-signing Rodgers. So I thought he held his own for blocking. Especially when they used that 3 tight ends, they used some 3 tight end sets. I thought he did well on there. And when he was 1-on-1 against, he sealed the defensive ends a couple of times, and I liked what I saw there. So I thought Stoll held his own, and especially given the situation he was put in. How about you? Anybody else you saw?
Yeah, Brett Toth is a guy that I'm really, really liking what I see. I have the game on right now as we're talking. I'm watching it for a 3rd time. He had a really nice block on that Quez Watkins screen touchdown pass last week. This week, he really held his own. He played a lot. There were times where Vinovich gave him some fits, but I thought for the most part, he played very well. He's a guy that's impressed me and has a shot at that 10th offensive lineman spot. I think Suo Opeta is making this roster. I know Nate Herbig had the rough snap, but if Dickerson's not ready to come off NFI, I think Herbig is easily your backup center. Matt Pryor's not good, and I think he is destined to be cut. Another guy that I'm not too high on would be Michael Jacquet, who was absolutely just, I thought he had vertigo. He was turned inside out by JJ. What's his last name? JJ Taylor. JJ Taylor, who reminds me a lot of Darren Sproles. So, look, you brought up Jason Kroom. Bummer for him, but I never thought he was going to make the roster. You know what's interesting, and I want to talk to you about this before we wrap up. What's your thoughts on the depth at wide receiver? We know Quez Watkins will be here. We know Jalen Reagor will be here. We know that obviously DeVonta Smith's going to be here. We thought that Travis Fulgham was going to be a lock, but he really just played with the depth team during the second half last night. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside dropped a slant catch off a slant route. John Hightower wasn't targeted. Greg Ward barely played. What's going on here? Of those 4 guys, who are the 3 you're keeping? Because Jamon Osmond had 1 snap last night. He's not making this team. Mark and Michelle is not going to make this team. Andre Patton seems like more of a practice squad guy. But really, it's those 4 guys battling for 2 or 3 spots. If you have to pick 2, pick those first 2, and then who would be your 3rd between the final 2?
I'm going with Ward and Fulgham still. Those are my wide receivers 4 and 5 because I still think Ward still provides some value in the middle of the field. He's still a reliable catcher in the slot, so I'll go with that. Fulgham, you're just hoping that he gets acclimated to the way that Sirianni runs routes and he becomes more consistent. And maybe you have to rely on him on a 4-game stretch. Maybe that's Travis Fulgham. You have to rely on him in spurts in 4 games, which is not something you want, especially somebody on your roster, but maybe that's who he is. That last spot, beforehand I used to give to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Now I'm putting John Hightower in there. And the reason why is we're starting to see Arcega-Whiteside slip into the same pattern that we've always seen. Does well in practices, makes these tough catches, and then when it comes to game time, he doesn't perform. I mean, he had an egregious drop, I thought, in that game, and I just that was a ball that should have been caught, especially with his frame and the ability he has to catch the ball. He should have had that by far. So Hightower, at least with Hightower, you know what you're getting. You got the speed, and you hope you can teach him some of those other routes. But when it comes to, I just don't see it with Arcega-Whiteside. I give him this Hightower the slight edge over Arcega-Whiteside. Who are you taking?
Yeah, you and I are kind of in lockstep here. I think what is notable for Travis Fulgham, while he did only play with the depth team in the second half, he was tied for the lead in special team snaps with 13 last night. That typically speaks to where they view him. You don't normally waste special team snaps on guys who are in trouble, and so I think he's going to be fine. I just think he'll be a depth guy. I think you'll have Greg Ward or Quez Watkins starting in the slot with Rager and DeVonta Smith on the outside like we saw last night. And then, look, I think Ward makes it by default unless they trade for a veteran, which is clearly possible based on what we've seen here with rumors of Andre Dillard potentially be on the trade block, so we'll see with that. And then, look, Hightower's a guy who I didn't think had a really good camp before he got injured. I'm still not sold on him on special teams. Again, I think they should bring in a veteran. But yeah, right now I have him over Arcega-Whiteside for the first time all off season. So yeah, kind of brutal for Arcega-Whiteside, but the scholarship's over. He's going to really have to this is a massive week for J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and John Hightower. Those two guys are competing for that 6th spot. I do think they'll keep 6 wide receivers. So I'm intrigued by what could happen there. Now, I want to talk about Patrick Johnson as we're about to wrap up, because to me, he was a guy that I didn't think had a shot at this roster. And the way they're using Sam, it's kind of like they have 10 defensive line positions and then 1 extra spot for a guy who probably shouldn't be on the roster, but has a weird hybrid body, and they want to utilize him in some sort of way. So it's Jannard Avery, Joe Osman, and Patrick Johnson. I think Patrick Johnson's really shined when the lights have come on. He also had 13 special team snaps like Travis Fulgham. So I think he's a guy that could earn a roster spot over fellow draft picks like Teron Jackson, like Mr. T, who has absolutely been a ghost this summer. Very disappointing. So, let's go into this and kind of figure out what's your temperature on the late round picks. I mean, we know Kenny Gainwell's going to be here. We know Zach McPherson's going to be here, but like, of those 4 other late round picks, the 3 6th round picks and the 1 7th round pick, who do you think sticks around? Or do any of them stick around?
I definitely think Johnson sticks around. I have him on the 53-man roster. I think he stays on there at least for the first 3 weeks, because in my opinion, I'm not going to rush Davion Taylor back, and I'm going to see if I can sneak him on an injury reserve and just let him sit out for 3 weeks to make sure he's truly, truly right.
Well, but that means that he has to be on the initial 53.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what's going to happen. So I think he's going to be all right on that. I look at Stevens. You haven't seen that much of him because he's been hurt so much. You haven't seen that much of him on the field. So I really don't know. I think he'll be enough to sneak onto the practice squad. So I don't think he makes the initial roster. Jackson I think there's just too much depth at the defensive end position. I mean, the problem is going to be, who do you take out of there? And you look at the defensive ends they have. It's just like, I mean, you're going in potentially as like Ryan Kerrigan as like your 5th, and that quote unquote, I'm not calling him worse, but like your lowest quote unquote defensive end, or Derek Barnett, one of those guys, 8-1-8, 5A, 5B, whatever you want to call him. That's just, there's no way he's not beating them out. And Tui Peluso, I saw him. It was on I forgot who running back was for the Patriots, ran 12-yard play. He set himself up to be hit with a trap/wham block, whatever you want to call, went up the field, didn't sit into his gap right, and he just got washed out. And he hasn't really played well enough, and it's disappointing to see because I really thought he would fit the scheme well. He thought he fit the scheme well, so I'm watching. I think you may have a couple.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I'm watching right now, and he's getting tossed around.
Yeah,
I'm in the third quarter right now. What I do want to say is, now that we bring him up, Raekwon Williams, your guy, made a significant hustle play in the fourth quarter. It looked like he was going to tackle Stevenson in open space, like in the tackle box. There was a wide open tackle box, and he literally leaped and knocked the ball out. So I was very impressed by him. So that's a guy to watch. We're going to head to joint practices. We'll be up in Florham Park Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Practices with the Jets are on Tuesday and Wednesday. Chris and I will have full coverage on Eagles Extra on NJ.com, on Twitter. Make sure you follow us. And, sign up for Eagles Extra, NJ.com/text. You'll get exclusive insight into the practices, as well as we'll do some Q&As probably while we're up there. And then make sure to subscribe to the No Huddle Show podcast, wherever you get podcasts, and give us some 5-star reviews. Thank you very much. For Chris, I'm Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
We're all shopping for essentials online these days, and now you can get rewarded for it. With a Bank of America customized cash rewards credit card, you can choose to earn 3% cash back on online shopping. The essentials have never felt more rewarding. Visit bankofamerica.com/more rewarding to apply now. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation.